Hey! It's April again, a month recognized each year as Autism Awareness Month, all across the world. Did you know? Hey! It's April again. Hey! It's April again, a month recognized each year as Autism Awareness Month, all across the world. Did you know that, for many years, individuals with autism have continued to face many forms of inequalities, including unequal employment opportunities, which have only been heightened by the COVID-19 pandemic? This is a problem that has grown worse over time by long recognized discriminatory hiring practices and workplace environments that present major obstacles for persons with autism. The results are unemployment or severe underemployment of a large majority of adults on the autism spectrum. This year, as the world celebrates the World Autism Awareness Month of April as declared by the United Nations, the theme for 2021 is, Inclusion in the Workplace, Challenges and Opportunities in a Post-Pandemic World. This aligns with the Sustainable Development Goal 8, which is, decent work and economic growth, aimed at promoting full and productive employment and decent work for all, including persons with disabilities. Article 27 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities also recognizes the right of persons with disabilities to work, on an equal basis with others, and to a work environment that is open, inclusive and accessible to persons with disabilities. At the Cadet Academy and the Dewdrops Community Center for Special Needs, we will continue to provide necessary support to children and young adults with autism and other disabilities to enable them grow into independent and employable adults. Now you know. So join us in spreading this message.
Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening for wherever you are in the part of the world. Thank you for joining us again on yet another interesting episode of Finding Help with Special Needs. I want to welcome every of our audience and listeners from different parts of the world. If you're watching on our website, thank you for joining us. If you're watching from Lola Aneke's Facebook channel or Facebook page, if you're watching from our YouTube channel, I want to thank you so very much for choosing to be with us this afternoon. So I want to welcome Blessing Happy. Thank you for joining and congratulations on your award. Congratulations. For everyone that'll be joining and be watching the replay of this, I want to say a big thank you to you. I hope that all that we learn here today and every other, it's been 50, today makes it the 58th episode of Finding Out with Special Needs. So, like Vicky always says, that is a classroom where we come and we learn. So I hope you've gotten value every week that you've been here. So welcome once again to episode 58 of Finding Out with Special Needs. Our topic for this week is equipping persons with autism for the workplace and entrepreneurship. And I have very fantastic and knowledgeable guests in the house. So I want to encourage us all to share this video so we can have a watch party on different platforms. And I'd like you to like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also leave your comments and your questions so that our guests will be able to answer your questions. Once again, welcome to episode 58 of Finding Out with Special Needs. Did I say my name? Of course, I'm still Lola Aneke. I remain your yours truly, Lola Aneke, and I want to gladly welcome you to episode 58 of Finding Out with Special Needs. Again, our topic for today is equipping persons with autism for the workplace and entrepreneurship. And without much ado, I want to invite my guest so that we can get this party started. So I'm going to bring in my guest already. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, Prof. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Wow, good to see you. I can't find, hold on. One of my guests is missing. I'm sure he's going to join us pretty
I'm sure
soon.
he'll join shortly.
Yeah, good to see you. The ladies are here.
Yeah.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you, Prof. Good to see you, Miss Aneke Adegoke. I'm so excited about the topic. I'm excited that you're here with us. And as we always do on Friending Up with Special Needs, we always love our guests to please introduce themselves. And I always say, please don't hold back. A lot of people think disability or special needs is something that they're not clear about. And whenever we talk, they're thinking, oh, who are these people? What are they talking about? What gives them the authority to talk to us? So I want you to please blow your trumpet, tell us who you are, and then we'll take it from there. So over to you, Prof. Professor. I'm going to be calling you Prof a lot today. That's how we do in Nigeria. Over to you,
That's
Ma.
okay.
And then Auntie Annika will go, and hopefully we hope Paul Isaac will be able to join us as we progress. Over to you, Ma.
Well, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Um,
Oh,
you can see by my age that I've been around a long time, and so I have
yes.
done so many things that I'm proud about. I've been the vice president and dean of academics at a U.S. university before, where I worked for 25 years. I've come back to Nigeria and I've started a lot of companies. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started an OND school. I started a secondary school. I market for schools to go e-learning. We put e-learning in universities like Obafemi Awolowo, Ahmadu Bello University, all of that. And so I've done quite a few things, but the most significant, really, this is what I call my 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 feel good uh, project or opportunity is the work that I do with These Abilities Foundation. Um, how did I get introduced to them? The founder died, and I saw how many people with disabilities that came to the burial, and I'm like, geez, what am I doing? I mean, this is a whole area that needs to be developed, and that is how I got involved with people with disabilities. So I'm excited to be on the show tonight. I'm going to tell you a little bit of what I've been able to do, and I hope your audience enjoys the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma. I look forward to a fruitful time of discussion with you today. I've been excited since the day I knew you were coming on the show. Over to you, Auntie Anike. You know how excited I am that you're able to make it today. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm based in the United Kingdom. From my little profile, I went into teaching at a very early age, and how I got into teaching wasn't just by a stroke of luck. Is growing up. Well, we grew up in the UK, and we moved back to Nigeria in the 70s. My dad went to military school here. He went to Sandhurst Military Academy, and yeah. So on getting back to Nigeria, typical, I was told I was eccentric. That was the first foray into me not knowing what was going on. And everyone used to say, oh, I was eccentric. And then my dad would say, oh, no, 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 she's not eccentric. You just don't understand that. And then I thought, what does eccentric mean? So I found the dictionary, and then I realized that eccentric means you don't do things the right way. And I thought, okay, but nobody really explained what I wasn't doing the right way. And there and then obviously I knew something wasn't right somewhere. And even my mother would say, oh God, Otunsi very eccentric me. And my dad, there was always a fight in the house, and my dad would say, no, 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 there's nothing wrong with that. You just don't understand that. So, okay, fair enough. And, obviously from there, I had OCD, went to school, and then I had a phobia of maths. I couldn't do numbers, which I did clearly indicate. And then I think that was Why I couldn't understand numbers, nobody knew. Anyway, there was no awareness. There wasn't any differentiation in schools. It was like one fit everyone. But I couldn't, anytime I saw numbers, I panicked, you know. And the irony was that my dad trained as an engineer and he was very clever in maths. So there was a bit of an oxymoron. Why couldn't she understand numbers? She's my favorite daughter. Why is it that every time she sees numbers, she begins to panic? Anything, one thing led to the other. And then I think I was going through my dad's study and I found a book on psychology and I thought, this looks interesting. And then from psychology, I after it, I think I must have been about 10, 11. And then I saw something regarding educational psychology, and that kind of struck a chord. And I thought, okay, what does educational psychology entail? Then I realized, okay, how children learn, if there's a bit of difficulty with learning. And I thought that was the magic moment for me. And then I think at about age 10 and 11, then I decided that I wanted to understand how children learn. And then one thing led to the other. This was what led me into teacher training. I mean, when I went to teacher training at university, I was one of the youngest actually. And I remember that most of my colleagues would say, I want so that means those elderly ladies who've been through associate degrees and colleges of education. And they were like, kilo one check, well, I want so I want balagba, but I love psychology. As I said, that was the foray, the me not understanding numbers and how to teach children numbers was one of the key interests that led me into teaching. And then when I came back to the UK, because I didn't pass my, I'm never ashamed to say that I did my GCSE levels when I was 40 in the UK, because maths was one of the major requirements for you to be able to teach in the UK. And then I remember then going back to college to do maths. And the first thing I told my lecturer, I said, I can't do numbers. I said, anytime I see numbers, I said, I panic. And then she was like, I said, I know. So I had a bit of counseling to kind of desensitize me to numbers and lots of color. And I thought, wow, I never knew maths could be interesting. And that was when the understanding that a lot of kids don't like numbers. But if you manage it in a very, very positive way, every child is a maths genius. But, sadly, from the Nigerian concept and me not even understanding numbers in the primary, getting to secondary was even worse because maths books, as we clearly know, are black books. So if you had a phobia for maths, even at a young age, and going into secondary school and seeing that the books are black, it blocks the cognition, as we're aware. So, and I knew there was no way I could actually pass maths at O levels. I had a grade F because I thought there was no way. So when I came back to the UK, I went through some counseling. And then I looked at, and I told my lecturer, I said, I never knew a maths book could be colored. And she was like, oh, so what do you do in Nigeria? I'm like, we talk about that. Let me get the grades and we talk about that. So, teaching numbers in the early years has been my main strength. I'm presently an SEN teacher in the UK, and it's been a journey, but I've enjoyed what I do. So that's just a little history about me.
Wow. I love the introduction. And welcome, Paul. I'll get to you soon. As soon as I'm done with Miss Aneke, I'm going to come to you. But I wanted Miss Aneke to let us know how she found out that she is an individual living with autism. Because I can imagine years back, did you get a diagnosis? What was the story about? How did you find out? Because I'm just imagining people saying things about me. Can I place a name to it? What is it that is happening? How did you find out?
As I said, everyone said I was eccentric, and then typical Nigeria, nobody bothers to ask you why you're eccentric. They're like, oh yeah, she's stupid. She doesn't know what she's doing. And dad being what he was, and no one could come near my dad and say I was stupid. It was a physical fight. And then my dad will say, there's nothing wrong with her. And then people will say, but can't you see there's something wrong? And my father would say, if I'm the father, I don't see anything wrong with my daughter. I don't think there's anything wrong with her. And, and that was it. So yes, on one hand, something was not right, but I believe my father, he was my father. So that was how I managed to scale the hurdle. That's, well, I don't care what anybody says. As far as my dad says there's nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong. So that was the journey. So as
Wow.
I said, the family play a very, very important role. If you have autistic children, or if you have a child, if the family believes you're the best, there's nothing anyone can say. You're the best, because that's the major tool of education, your family. If your family say you're the best, whatever anyone says outside the ball, you're the best. So you hold on to that for the rest of your life. Yeah.
Wow,
So
wow. Thank you for that. We had Paul with us last week, and he's here with us again today. Paul, could you please introduce yourself briefly? I know you said quite a number of things, but could you, for those who weren't able to listen to you last week, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Paul Isaacs. I'm a speaker, trainer, and consultant in the UK. I've been an advocate for around 11 years, and I'm also an author of books and a blogger as well. And I currently work for Anna Kennedy online as a blogger, consultant, and trainer.
Paul, confirm to us that you're an individual living with autism, yes or no?
I didn't quite catch that, sorry.
Confirm to us that you're an adult living with autism, yes or no?
Me? Yes, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I needed to put that out there. So interesting. I'm going to do this real quick because I'm finding up with special needs. We try to lay it as it is. We don't assume, and that's why I needed to make that clear. And there's something we always say in the field. You know, once you met an individual with a disability, you've met that individual. No two individuals are the same, even if they were twins or triplets from the same womb and all of that. So I'm going to ask specific questions. I'm going to ask Paul a question, and I'm going to ask Miss Aneke another question, and then we'll come to Prof. Now, both individuals, Miss Aneke is living with autism, Paul is living with autism. Could you, I think Miss Aneke should go again first, ladies first, as we say. So could you please explain to us some of the things that makes you unique and different? So I'm trying to show you, I'm trying to let our audience understand that you are living with autism, Paul is living with autism, but like we said, you are both unique individuals. Autism is a general name that we can associate with both of you, but the way you exhibit it, I bet to be different. So what are those things that you know are unique about you when it comes to you and being an autistic adult?
I think for me, growing up, I was fearless, I'll be honest with you, and I'm still fearless. And I think being fearless has kind of translated to my children. As I said, I've been divorced for 16 years now, and I've been a single mother raising 2 daughters. And they've gone on. The eldest she's a graduate of arts, and my youngest daughter is training in aviation, 2 girls. So being fearless, having that belief that anything is achievable. And I think for that, I take that from my dad, because my father will say, once you put your mind to it, you can achieve it. So that courage, that resilience, that belief, as I said, and which Miss Lola says, the family is a very, very important unit when you're dealing with a child with disability. Make the child believe in his or herself that anything is achievable. And as I said, I've traveled fearlessly. I've been as far as Russia. I mean, I've crossed from Finland into Russia by boats, and I'm fearless. I mean, I've gotten up and I've gone to Singapore by myself. I've gotten up, I've been to Brunei. I've gotten up, I've been to Malaysia, and so, the belief that anything is possible, anything is achievable. Once you have that in your mindset, the world is your oyster. Yeah. People will put different types of things in your head. That's the nature of human being. But you believe in yourself and never waver in your personal belief. Yep.
You know, in the field, we are very careful to use the word autistic, but I mean,
Yeah.
different opinions, different school of thought, because of
Yeah.
the idea of saying when we use the person first language and individual first before the
Yeah.
disability. So we say a person living with autism, although I know a different school of thought to that, you know. But what I hear you say, look, autism will not hold me back
Oh
from doing what
no.
I have to do. And I'm thankful that we're having this discussion, but there are a lot of individuals with disability and their parents watching and will be watching. They're saying, look, I remember I received a message on Facebook when we put out your bio. And she said, Lola, autism is different from different people. Where will my child ever be like Aneke? And I mean, I'm sure most of us answer that question almost immediately, you know. You
Yeah.
just have to find that child. It's not about getting child getting 100% or being able to do exactly what you're doing. Look for the strength of that child and build on it. And I like something you also said, you know, sometimes, and I stand to be corrected, sometimes individual disability in this part of the world have this sense of entitlement. You know, I'm living with this particular disability. Why don't you just let me, you know, hand down things to me, give me professional treatment and all of that, you know. But I'm thankful for the achievement you've made, and I'm thankful for being fearless. You know, I want people to hear that
Yeah.
nothing can hold you back, really. At your own level, go out there and do what you have to do. Thank you so much, Miss Aneke. Thank you so much.
That's all right.
Over to you, Paul. What is that thing? What are those qualities, irrespective of whatever autism has got on you? And really, I mean, it's not a bad thing to say you're individual with autism, but what are those things that stood out for you? Today, we're talking about the topic, equipping persons with autism for the workplace and entrepreneurship. And last week, there was a statement that we talked about that in this part of the world, they'll say, oh, even normal people have not been able to achieve this, or even normal people have not gotten job. Why are you talking about people with autism? I don't know if you understand what I mean and what I'm saying, Paul, but I'm talking about Nigerian context. So what makes you unique? You are an individual first. So whether white, black, blue, tall, short, that person first, what makes you unique?
Oh,
You need to unmute yourself, Paul.
yeah. Unmute.
Yes, sorry. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
hear you.
Yes. Yeah, I heard what you said, sorry. Yeah, I suppose what I ask other people who I'm close with what makes me unique, because I don't necessarily feel that's a question I should answer on my own. I don't know if you're familiar with a terminology called blowing one's own trumpet, which is basically saying I think I'm this and that. So going from what other people have said about the qualities that I have, in terms of my speaking and my training that I've done for over 11 years, it was said to me that I've got a way of speaking and relaying information in an approachable and meaningful way, a human quality to my training. So, in other words, what they're saying is you can present information that is quite complex in a fluid and non-linear way. So that's something I've done for over 11 years. So
Very true. I can I
yeah,
just jump in? I couldn't hold myself. So I've been following you, and more like your page on Facebook. Oh my God.
yeah,
I love the way you explained Maslow's hierarchy of needs and special needs. You know, it was just an easy read for me. Auntie Aneke, remember on Facebook when I was talking to the woman that wanted a child to be like you? It
Yeah.
was on his page. I found the quote that says, just be happy, have memorable moments with your child.
Yeah.
So you're so true. You make things easy, really. Anything on autism, I go to your page, I'm like, oh my God, this guy is awesome. So well done.
thank you. Yeah, that the way in which I present information about autism is, I use an analogy which I touched upon in the previous uh, live stream by an Australian lady called Donna Williams, which is looking at autism in a multifaceted, three-dimensional way. So when I went to her asking for help and advice, I decided to use myself as a project. So use myself as an analogy of what I'm trying to learn rather than using someone else. So I garnered a lot of knowledge over the years about my autism, what makes it up, what are the challenges, what are the strengths. And then what I started to do through the consultancy work is be holistic, open-minded, egalitarian. So I learned from other profiles that were different to mine. I remain humble in the fact that I don't know everything about autism, even though I have a diagnosis of autism. There are, as Donna Williams would put it, so many different autism fruit salads. The analogy being that if you had a bowl of fruit, there'd be different types of fruit, different strengths of fruit, and it's weighing up and ballasting what the disabilities are and what the disabilities are within the person. So maybe the strength that you're saying within myself is the fact that I healthily recognise my strengths and my weaknesses. I'm aware of what my difficulties and challenges are, and I've thankful enough to be able enough to adapt to them and adapt around them and make allowances in my own life, so my personal life, and actually garner strengths from that. For example, I'll give you an example of something that I've learned to do, which people were telling me how to do for many years, which sounds quite funny. Brushing my teeth, I've had awful trouble brushing my teeth. People, I go to the dentist, they tell me how to do it. You need to do it like this. You need to position the brush like this. You need to angle it like that. And although in a constructive way, I can understand what they were saying, I could never replicate it in real physical life. And actually,
That's sorry for.
yeah, and it's true, and
Oh dear.
yeah, and actually, because that was such a difficulty for me, yeah, so I'm going about strengths and deficits, disabilities and abilities. If someone's telling you information, you can't mentalize it. So I haven't got a mind that takes in information visually. So they would use visual imagery to try and transfer this information into my mind. So what happened over lockdown, because lockdown's affected everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, it actually became a strength to actually say, actually, I've mastered this, even though I'm 35 nearly. I've mastered being able to actually, brush my teeth. So what can you learn from that little goal there? Well, goals are specific to the person. So goals are not hierarchical. Goals are not this is the most important and this is the least important. Goals are there to be looked at from the eye of the person inside. So what is their reality? What is their sensory reality? What is their cognitive reality? What is their environment? So although it looks like something very quite rightfully insignificant to someone else who can do it without thought, so it's just a natural transferable activity that is part of someone's daily routine. For me, it's an extreme challenge. So you talk about strength, even in the little things there can be strength. So perseverance, I would say, perseverance and the sense that that one never plateaus, and I think I mentioned that in the last live stream, that no one ever stops learning. So I value the things that maybe be considered small by others of equal relevance to the things that people consider big. So in a sense, we're talking about subjectivity. So you mentioned about your culture. There are things within different cultures that have different importance, different values, different senses of relevance, importance. And what I've tried to do is, I'm idiosyncratic by nature, so I don't really conform to the culture I live in. So maybe that has held me in great stead to actually ignore some of the cultural conventions that have been around me. So it's in effect someone dancing to the beat of their own drum, as opposed to someone who is being artificially given a system that they will never understand. So what I mean by that, you work parallel with one system. It's the analogy I gave last time, and I'll finish with that before we move on, is, you wouldn't give a blind person a seeing person's book to read. It would be arbitrary. It would be wrong. It would be insulting, or at the very least, mildly offensive. But you'd have to work with that person's system. So that's really what you have to do, in the sense of extending it beyond my own reality. You have to be, conscious of other people's.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you. I like the fact that you talked to us about you have this, you persevere, perseverance, irrespective of what it is, you find yourself and you keep going and on and on. Last week you said something that was really profound. I've always heard about individuals with autism who have sensory processing disorders. And when you told us about you looking yourself in the mirror and you're not able to, attach that face to yours, I'm like, wow. I've had different people. I'd read about a guy who's living with autism who said to us that most times when we talk to individuals and we say, individuals with autism, and they're not looking at you, keep saying, look at me, especially for the younger kids, look at me. You have no idea what the interpretation of that sensory means to them. And he said to us that, for example, he's looking at one car and he's seeing like 1,000 cars. And that could be really scary. You're seeing 1,000 cars coming towards you and just one car. There's no way you want to continue, because the only way to look is to look away. And that, for me, I learned a profound lesson. I know it. For me, I've known from my training that one size does not fit all. And thank you so much, Mrs. Grace Alexander, for mentioning that it is not one cap fit all. Well done, Paul. Thank you. We can't just say because an individual who is able to look at you in the face, therefore every child with autism must look at you in the face. We need to understand what works for them and how it works for them, and then we can be able to get to them. And we don't want to be rude, or we don't want to look offensive, really, because the world is for every one of us. We have to appreciate everyone for who they are, and then find a way to have a common place to meet. Your Paul, I'm not yet over you, really, because I've learned so much from you, from your personal experience and what you share. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing with us. Now I'll be back to you, Prof. So I'm really excited that Prof is in the house, because she's just such amazing work with individuals with disability, particularly in the area of helping them to manage businesses, mentoring them. And we had a discussion earlier on, and I was like, wow, because it doesn't matter what category of disability you are living with. Disability is disability.
All right, I think her network He's acting up again.
Hey, it's April again, a month recognized each year as Autism Awareness Month, all across the world. Did you know that, for many years, individuals with autism have continued to face many forms of inequalities, including unequal employment opportunities, which have only been heightened by the COVID-19 pandemic? This is a problem that has grown worse over time by long recognized discriminatory hiring practices and workplace environments that present major obstacles for persons with autism. The results are unemployment or severe underemployment of a large majority of adults on the autism spectrum. This year, as the world celebrates the World Autism Awareness Month of April as declared by the United Nations, the theme for 2021 is Inclusion in the Workplace, Challenges and Opportunities in a Post-Pandemic World. This aligns with the Sustainable Development Goal 8, which is decent work and economic growth, aimed at promoting full and productive employment and decent work for all, including persons with disabilities.
Hello?
Article 27
Yes,
of the
we
United
can.
Nations Convention
Well,
on
at
the
least
Rights
I
of
can.
Persons with Disabilities also recognizes the right of persons with disabilities to work, on an equal basis with others, and to a work environment that is open, inclusive and accessible to persons with disabilities. At the Cadet Academy and the Dewdrops Community Center for Special Needs, we will continue to provide necessary support to children and young adults with autism and other disabilities to enable them grow into independent and employable adults. Now you know. So join us in spreading this message.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
So, can you hear me now? Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'd like to mention here, if I go away for any reason, the discussion continues with or without me. I'll be back to join us. So please, let's take it on. I'm not going to bulge up or whatever goes on. So I was talking about Prof and the great work she's done, and we were saying that it doesn't matter the kind of disability. We expect that individuals with disability have some certain skills and requirements, and she's done such amazing job with these individuals, So we want Prof to just share a few tips as to what individuals with disability, autism, whatever disability is. Yes, we're talking about World Autism Awareness Month, but I believe there's something every other kind of category of disability can learn from what she's going to share with us today. So we're talking about equipping persons with autism for the workplace and entrepreneurship. Last week we talked about it doesn't have to be a white collar job. It does whatever it is, as long as that individual can contribute his or her own quota to living an independent adult life, so that this person doesn't have to always depend on people, So whatever they can do, but really and truly, we don't want a situation whereby we are begging or we are trying to sympathize. We want to be able to say this person has got what it takes at his own level, So today we want Prof to please share some ideas with us as to what we need to do to equip individuals with autism and other disabilities in the workplace, and also to set them up to be successful entrepreneurs. But Prof, before you go into that, what was your first encounter like? And because I know that profs and doctors do a lot of research. When you did your research as to the level of readiness for individuals with disability in Nigeria, what was the data like for you? Was it an encouraging one where individuals with disability really ready to take on the workplace or to take up entrepreneurship? What was it like for you, man? What was the research and the response? I know that would now take it to the next level as to how you can support them.
Well, thank you very much. I actually didn't bother about, what the research said. When I got involved with These Abilities Foundation, I realized that we have a lot of work to do. We need to work on people with disabilities themselves. We need to work on the employers, and we need to work on banks that will loan them money, that will have the trust in these people, because they look at your outward appearance, and normally people just jump into conclusions and think, how can you make it? what can you do? And so we have to give them training, first of all, in self-confidence, to say, look, you are not begging. You're saying, I have this skill, I can do this, that, and the other. Just give me the chance. Give me that opportunity. The disabled community in Nigeria is about 25 million. That is the size of Lagos State. And so they are strong and they're powerful. And that is what we first of all tell them, that look, you have the numbers and you can move things, you can make things happen. They actually, were instrumental in letting the government, sign the Disabilities Act. Now every company should are supposed to leave 5% of their hiring positions, for people with disabilities. Um, People, even the building department now has things out that says you have to have off ramps, you have to have a bathroom that would take disabled people. These are things that were not in place to start with. I mean, you get to a hotel and there's no ramp and they have to carry somebody in a wheelchair into that hotel, and it's just not right. And so I know we had to educate the people with disabilities. We had to educate the employers to say, look, if this person brings value to your company, uh, 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 don't look at his or her appearance. Make arrangements, make the provisions for him or her to be able to work. We actually had a lady who is actually on the autism spectrum. She had a master's degree and she was looking for work. And just because, when she opens her mouth or, she gets up to move around, you immediately see that, okay, she needs help. But when we talked and the bank that was supposed to give them loans actually saw what she could do, they hired her. And immediately they put her to good use, and everybody's happy. So it's not even just how do I get a loan to start a business. It's even you, the bank, that's giving them loans. Can you hire some of us because we add value? I mean, if Paul tells you, he's a blogger and he has all these skills, and then you're saying because he has autism and that's the reason why you're not going to hire him, I mean, then you'd be losing out because you wouldn't be able to get to those skills that he could use to your company, for your company. The same thing with Aneke. If she's a good teacher, and then you're going to say because of her disability, then you're not going to hire her. So these are the things that we will be able to work on. It's an uphill battle. But we know that it's just a little at a time. We have to eke at that problem, and hopefully we make a headway. In terms of entrepreneurship, I just take them through the basics of entrepreneurship. I mean, I have a DBA. I'm a doctor of business administration, so I'm actually equipped to teach all these management courses. But one thing that working with people with disabilities did for me was to help me see, how I've been teaching before and how that must change. And so now, I used to put videos out for my students. Now I'm thinking, you can't just put videos out there. They have to have subtitles. It has to be, because if somebody can't hear, how would they know what you're saying? So, but if you put the subtitle, then they can read, and the person that cannot read can hear you. And so you have to find ways of being creative, and that has changed my teaching style, everything about me. My school, the way we arrange things, the ramps and everything. It has caused me to rethink, how we do things. And so people come on, and they sign on for the course. It's part of an enterprise development program, and we get all sorts in the classroom. The blind are there, the deaf are there, the albinos are there, and so we make sure that everybody gets listened to. Everybody gets their problem. They have questions, lots and lots of questions. They have phobias. They have complexes, and we deal with those complexes in the classroom to say, okay, so this is what you're doing, this is how you feel, this is how people are making you feel. How about trying to do it this way? So that you can appeal to, so we have to be an all-round mentor for these people. And what we've found is almost to 100% of them, everyone that the bank has loaned money to, and these are small business loans. They get loans for keke, so that they can, because they can sit and drive the tricycle. And so when it doesn't matter that you have a disability, just let people get in the back, and you take them to their destination. And so all of the loans that they have given, because it's through the foundation, it's through the enterprise development program, all of them have been able to pay back, on their loans. Because it used to be that banks would say, no, we can't trust them, we don't know what they're going to do, and so we can't give them loans. But we have been able to get loans for these individuals right now.
Wow, well done, Ma. Well done. And I like the fact that you talked about the different disability that I said earlier on. It could be autism, it could be a physical disability, it could be hearing impaired, it could be visual impairment. Everyone is unique, and there's some ways we can reach them. I also appreciate the fact that you talked about counseling, because I was having a discussion, I think it was with Mr. Bioye last week, and I said, you know what, the first thing is a mindset. So I appreciate the fact that the counseling is very important. You counsel them, what do you think, what are your thoughts, how do we change the mind and the thinking process, how do you think you can't, if you can't, what are the obstacles, how do you get you to the right frame of mind, so that we can, because there's one thing for you to be able to get that loan, there's another thing for that loan to be abused, which will block chances for other people to be able to access such loan who will do well. So thank you for thinking it through. Also, I like the fact that you help them to build self-confidence. You can't trade that for, because one of the things I realized with the issue of stigmatization and all of the challenges that has to do with disability is that these individuals tend to lose their self-esteem. They don't believe in themselves. So I appreciate the fact that you talked about that. And then the access to structural infrastructures, buildings. It's so, I don't want to mention it. There's a very popular place in Lagos where top class graduates take place, and I was there, and I realized that there was no access for individuals with disability, and that was really hard. It was disheartening. And like Paul said, that's an insult on such people. We need to see everyone as we all have a right to everything. We're all human, irrespective of whatever ability or disability status. And he also said something about educating the employers of labor themselves. They need to understand that these individuals have things to offer. Don't look at the disability yet. Look at what this person is bringing to the table. Imagine that lady who has a doctorate degree and was it master's, and she's everywhere looking for job, and she has what it takes just because it's autism, and that's the reason they won't employ her. And that's why we are careful as to how we talk about disability, we are not saying that there are no, negative side or side, some other, it's not always all positive and all that. We have to look at the balance, the strengths and the weaknesses, but above all, what makes things work better is looking at the strength and building up on that strength. There's nothing we can do so much about the weaknesses, but what is this person's strength and how can we build on it? And then creative ways. When you said creative, I said, oh, she's going to the educational aspect, the visual, auditory, the tactile, and the kinesthetic. Thank you so much, Ma, for walking us through this. Sometimes we look at these things as being such a big deal. It's just about looking at this individual. What do you need? And how can you access your need? Thank you so much for all that you do, Ma. I'll let you take a short break because I know Ms. Aneke is running away very soon. I want her to just give us a few tips. She's an individual living with autism, and she's a teacher. I'm wondering, I follow that. I remember one of the time I was speaking at a chat, and I'm like, how do you get your teaching resources? How do you get such fun things? And she said to me, these are the places I go to. I don't know if you remember that conversation on Facebook. And when we look at individuals, also like, oh, there's nothing they can give. This is a good, everybody has a strength, but for me, I celebrate humor. I celebrate all that you do. I celebrate the fact that you saw your own weaknesses, look for strengths, and you're helping other individuals. I remember listening to you on another show talking about how you help these kids who are struggling with how to identify numbers and looking at it from your own point of view and helping them. So in addition to our topic for today, which is equipping persons with autism for the workplace and entrepreneurship, what are those tips you can share for parents? Those parents who are thinking, oh, how can my child be like you? Well, I'm not saying they have to all be like you. What are those little things that they could help them to stand and be themselves? Things like self-help, whatever it is that we can help them build to the next level of who they are and how they can, excel in their own little ways.
One thing I do, which is always on my table, and I do a lot of traveling. One thing I always go around with is colored pencils, whichever part of the world, because when I read everywhere. I always highlight because that's been one of my strengths, which I found out when I came to the UK. Coloring, underlining, when Professor Awushika was speaking, I don't know whether you could see that. Just having a look at that. If you had to teach a child through maths, which one would appeal to the child better?
The red.
Because don't forget, kids are coming into school with an anxiety of numbers, especially in Nigeria. That was the difference. Yes. So a child who has autism, right, who struggles with numbers, which I can always remember, if you give, I'm just going to put it on, if you give a child that in the classroom, what happens to the child mindset? Instantly, the child closes down. You've lost the child forever, So if you say, come on, get on with the work, he's already struggling processing numbers. You even make it worse when you do it in black. So at that initial stage of learning, the child is gone. So as the child goes up the years, and you would say, oh, haven't you learned the numbers? Yeah, but as a teacher, you've killed the children with the black. Now, as an educator, we have to go the extra length. Sorry, that's what the job entails. One size never fits all child. How do you know that child is struggling with maths? You do like a little entry level assessment, right? By the time the books get back and you look at the books, first of all, number formation, that was my main problem. I'm sorry, I learned to write number 2 when I was in Form 4. I couldn't write number 2. It was one of the most complex numbers to write. You've got a C and you've got that bit bottom. 8 is another complex number. Once you identify your kids are struggling, if they can't write number 2, number 3, 4 is not bad because it's a bit of a stroke. But once they can't write the numbers which have curves here, number 8 is very complex. Then as a teacher, you need to intervene very, very quickly. So don't start dumbing the child down. The child can do it, but the child needs a lot of support. And that's when you start bringing in the colors for the numbers. Because if you don't catch the child on time, as maths goes up the years, it gets very complicated. And, if you don't get it in quickly, that was the problem I had, And sadly, the teacher couldn't understand why I couldn't take 10 from 7. First and foremost, I couldn't even see the 10. So where is 10? I couldn't grasp the imagination. And then I remember then she would say borrow. I'm like, from where? You know, so if you're teaching that, you got to break it down into steps and make it colorful. You know, so don't say borrow one from there. Where do I find the one? Where do I put it? So and you see, the more you do it, don't forget that brain is not actually picking up those concepts. The more you do it, the more the child gets frustrated, you see. Internally, the child is closed down. And then, you know, sorry, Paul, I'm going to digress a bit into Yoruba. And then you keep on saying, Olodoni. No, the child is not an Olodo. You, as a teacher, fail that child because you're very quick to one size fits all. No, 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 no. That's where the autistic child needs a bit of support. That's where you got to break down that maths. You know, you got to go, as if you teach an autistic child, you have to keep on going back to the most simplest complex stages of maths. Okay, 10 take away 5. If you have to do the strokes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you cross out 5, you got to make it very visual, like what Professor Awashika said. You got to make that maths visual until the child gets the concept. The child will get it, but it might take a bit longer. But as a teacher, you got to keep on going back to basics until the concepts work. Yeah. So that's my little tip there. Yeah. Every child will achieve, but you know, as a teacher, you just got to go the extra length to make it knowledgeable and applicable to the child. Yeah.
Thank you so much. You know, while you were speaking,
yeah.
Wow. Am I echoing at the other end? Okay, it's fine
No,
now.
I can hear you.
No, while you
Yeah,
were speaking, I'm like, oh my God. You know, everything you're saying, everything, each and every one of you today, it just resonates with me because, you know, I think people think, oh, it's autism. It's also about sensory. It has to do with verbal or not verbal communication deficit or social interaction deficit or repetitive stereotypic behavior. But you know, while he was speaking, I had to put it out there because some individuals are fixated. I mean, with
okay. It's frozen.
Okay, I think she's gone again. I actually was thinking about another aspect to Nigeria's problems when you were talking about teachers needing the extra mile. That is one thing we have to build into our teacher training programs in Nigeria. We don't, I mean, there are special, there's special ed teachers, but they're not nearly enough. And when you get a child in your class that's a little slow, maybe because you know they have dyslexia or dysgraphia or dyscalculia and whatnot, and you don't know what to do with him or her. And so we need to also train our teachers to recognize that, like you said, the child is not an olodo, but you know they just need help. And then and the work that I'm actually doing with Mrs. Alexander and the Star Children organization is actually looking into that aspect to say, how do we train teachers and how do we give them the skills to be able to handle these children. Now, Paul, I've
got to log off now because I have a tutoring session online.
Oh, well, it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's nice. Nice listening to you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and hope we can catch up sometime again. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes,
all right, then.
Thank you.
Enjoy the afternoon. Bye bye now.
See you.
Bye bye.
Bye
bye, Paul. Bye bye.
Okay, so Paul, it's you and I. And I have a question.
Yes.
who actually is your favorite teacher, and what did they do, to earn that accolade, or how do you put it?
Going back to primary school, I would say, in terms of teaching, so this would have been around 1995.
Okay.
96. So what was happening there was, I'd gained functional speech a year before. So before that, I was echolalic. I had very fragmented speech. I had my own language. This is what I spoke about in the previous live stream. And by the time I got to year 5, I was still very monotracked in terms of processing different pieces of information. And a lady came in from America who introduced a unique way of teaching mathematics. And because I had visual perceptual disorders, I couldn't mentalize imagery with words. So if you think about someone writing on the board, you've got the phonics of the words versus the imagery, and those two things wouldn't marry up into something I could relay. So what she done, interestingly enough, without actually consciously knowing it, she introduced a kinesthetic associative way of learning mathematics. So she introduced me to these different units, and they were different colors. So a wooden block would be 1, and then a longer yellow block would be 2. A longer block of 3 would be blue, and the highest number, 10, was orange. So what I was able to do was use objects of reference to externally externalize and actually feed back into my mind. So I was able to actually physically move the numbers around. That actually helped me, rather than relying on something ethereal like language and then creating imagery from the language. The condition I've got within my autism is called aphantasia. It's someone who doesn't have a visual memory. So that is a perfect example of a person, without even knowing it, which I think is even more amazing, because that is what makes it so poignant, coming in and through no knowledge of her own, which was quite beautiful, really, actually working with my system. And I can remember that year doing maths with her, and it was very profound, because it was, okay, I can touch the numbers, I can feel the numbers, I can experience the numbers. So that actually garnered a sense of clarity, because before that they used to sing the times table, and of course I would get the phonics of the singing correct, because I'd be echoing everyone else around me, but I wasn't internalizing the meaning of once 2 is 2, 2 2's, once 2, the kind of the way they do the way they would sing it is in a very melodic way, which I enjoyed, but I wasn't actually getting the interpretive thread of what they actually wanted me to get out of it. So when I met this lady a year later, it was quite amazing. But what I've learned as I've got older is that I'm because of the way in which my language grew, which was through emotion and creating my own language. I somewhat of a wordsmith now. I'm creative, I'm artistic, I like art, and I like creative writing and poetry. When I write and when I create art, I don't think about consciously what I'm doing is when I get the best work done. So when I wrote my first book, my autobiography, I had the basic concept It was an autobiography, and then I just wrote it. And then when I wrote it, it took about half a year to complete. I read it back and then understood about my life. It was pre-consciously all in there. All the experiences I had, all the memories came out through my fingertips. It's called pre-attentive thinking, which it can manifest itself in very different ways. So that was a catharsis. That was a moving on. That was a sense of, I suppose, personal achievement. But it was more than that. It was a sense of acknowledgement of my past and moving on as a person. So learning what that proved to me when I wrote that book 10 years ago was that there was a person in there, and a person who was thinking, even though it didn't appear as such. So when we have this presumption of IQ and incompetence and what intelligence actually means, when I work with people with severe information processing challenges and their presentation, you go in as a blank slate and you connect with them on a level which they can understand. And before you even go into the room, before you even set foot into their house or their space, the ethos that must be adorned is that I'm a novice. I'm a novice. I don't know anything. And that is what has held me in great stead. I'm an eternal novice. I don't know anything. So allow me to get all that knowledge from you. And another thing I think that is very healthy to learn, it's held me in great in great stead as a person as I've got older, is with my parents. They always acknowledged failure as normal. Failure is a normal process. Being a failure is actually something I welcome, because failing is a chance to relearn. Failing is a chance to reflect. Failing is a chance to take a step back. So it's a mixture of learning, it's a mixture of ethos, and it's a mixture of adaptation and being holistic and three-dimensional all the time. It's fluidity. It's the equivalent of you being a stream, as opposed to one being a cup of water that just goes stagnant and goes nowhere. You have to keep moving, adapting.
Wow, thank you so much, Paul. Yeah,
you're welcome.
I was asking Paul before you came back.
Wow. Can you all hear me now?
I was asking him who was his favorite teacher and why. So please, over to you.
I learned quite a lot. I just kept quiet. I'm like, wow. Because, I was just trying to explain what Ms. Aneke was talking about, and the fact that she went to the aspect of learning. When people look at individuals autism based on the knowledge they have of them, the social interaction skills, and then they don't realize that, and research has also shown us that sometimes there's a comorbidity and disability or challenges. Okay, I don't know what's happening today, but I'm sure you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello?
Hello?
Great. Yeah, okay. I can hear you. Out there, that individuals with autism sometimes would have a comorbidity where you have learning disability, where you have them exhibiting a form of dyslexia, dyscalculia, or auditory processing disorder, and all of that. But the most important is coming to them as a novice. I like when Paul said that, come to me wanting to know how I learn or how things work for me, as opposed to you assuming that you know all about me because you've met somebody who you think is living with a particular disability, and you assume that every individual who has the same thing. So thank you for sharing that. And I like what you said about failure. You don't look at failure as, oh, this person has failed literally, but you're looking at a mixture of what has this person learned, what would this person do better. This is a learning curve for that individual. Thank you so much for sharing that, Paul, and I thank you for holding forth while I was away. Thank you, Prof. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Now, I would want both of you, whatever order, I think I would want Prof to go first, to speak to those parents or individuals who think, okay, my kid needs basic things like he can't even talk, he can't even wash his own plate, he can't even lay his own bed. Then we are not even talking about academic or him being able to get a loan to go to get something done. What skills or what ideas would you want to share with this parents who are thinking, where do we start from? This is looking like a tall order for me. Where do I start from? Oh, my child is still very little. How do I know which way to go? What are the ideas you want to give to this parent? Also, because it's, for me, it's like the foundational skills in preparing them to be employable or to work in the workplace or to be entrepreneur, whatever they want to be.
Well, I suppose I'm going to go from my own personal perspective of something that maybe a destination is quite a big thing to start off with. Far too much we look at the future and not enough in the moment. So when one as a parent has a child with disabilities, there's a lot of psychological, psychosocial factors that come into that may need to be addressed first. So when you look at the cultural aspects, which I was speaking about on the previous live stream, the cultural aspects, how the parents themselves perceive disability, how they may worry for the future, how they may have certain worries that they may feel ashamed of having. Maybe they need to have a healthy space to talk about those worries, to talk about those challenges, to talk about it in an objective way, which in a sense, the space not being a threatening place. So it's the psychology of it as well as the practicality. Now, you said about some children who don't have functional speech, or, well, there's different reasons why someone may not have functional speech. For me, it was a mixture of oral apraxia and aphasia. For some people, it could be full body apraxia. For some people, it could be part of a communication disorder. For some people, it could be a communication disorder and cerebral palsy, or secondary to aphasia or a language processing disorder. So there's different types of communicational challenges, and I've only given you just a few as an example. So then you have to think about the system there. So there's delays, or the person continues to be non-speaking. Well, non-speaking doesn't necessarily mean lack thereof intelligence. And I'm friends and connect with people who are functionally non-verbal who type to speak. I will give an example of a gentleman who parents I know, and I remember him at an autism base, and he was very, very kinesthetic. He had visual agnoses, he had semantic agnoses. He would manage his surroundings through licking, sniffing, tapping, rubbing. He was extremely kinesthetic in bonding with the external world around him. And then what happened was the parents actually, on some subconscious level, knew that this young man was an intelligent, competent human being, and he types to speak. And I remember going around the house about 5 years ago, and it was really interesting. I knocked on the door, and I was there. And what he'd done, because he's face blind, because I've got long hair, he pulled a strip of my hair and smelt it, and it was lovely. And he went over to his letterboard and he typed, "Hello, Paul, how are you?" Because he recognized it was me. And the speech and language therapist was there, and he talked very emotively about his frustrations of not being able to speak, and also the hang on, I'm just plugging my phone in, won't be a moment because I'll go off if I don't. And what they realise through presuming incompetence is that he had a deep love for words, because if you think about it, this young man's profile meant that he was an observer of life, right? Because he couldn't speak, he was observing the life around him. He was an introspective, deep thinking young man. And his mother very proudly on Facebook shares these beautiful poems. And these poems are full of candor, full of emotion, full of depth, full of humanity. And he has a great affinity for the arts. He loves science. He went to the Globe Theatre. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with William Shakespeare, but there's a Globe Theatre, and he was absolutely enthralled by the Shakespearean art there. And I think it's a beautiful example of the parents following the child's lead, on some unconscious level knowing that this child is an intelligent, competent man. And I remember seeing him swimming one day, because I used to work at a day centre, and he happened to be there swimming. And I jokingly said to him, I said, "When is that book coming out?" And he had this little smile on his face. And it was great because because the energy I was giving was just of, you are my equal, you are a human being, you are of worth. And it's that simple aspect of valuing someone's humanity, which it kind of translates into its own form of self-confidence. You can get you mentioned phobias and vices, and that's very, very true. And it's what Donna Williams in her fruit salad analogy calls fleas. They're there, but they shouldn't be. And you can get people with obsessive compulsive disorder. You can get people with social phobia and social anxiety disorder. You can get people with impulse control problems. I can remember working with, with people who would pick their skin, pick their eyelashes, pick their hair. You can get people who are very poorly and have bipolar and psychosis. So it's an interesting study that I read on a blog. It says up to 70% of people on the autism spectrum have sometimes undiagnosed mental health co-conditions. So when they come into different spaces, you're not just seeing their autism, their information processing profile, etc. You may be seeing other things tacked onto it, which then get called the autism, but they're actually not. And that's a very important thing to understand about the baggage and maybe the unresolved stuff that happened in their childhood and their teenage years, that they may still be unconsciously carrying around, and through unconscious carrying around. And it's not unique to autism. All human beings can have a level of trauma. It depends on what degree and how it manifests. So that's another aspect that I would say one has to look at. What is the psychological, psychosocial aspects? How is that affecting their identity? how is that affecting their personality? So if you can get through all those things first and empower them, effectively what you're doing is you're giving them tools. You're not necessarily making them codependent on you or a specific person. You could say it's more interdependency rather than codependency, and building up a healthy sense of autonomy within themselves. And then if you work with the system, which I keep saying, and it's true, and you give either the carer or the parent or the caregivers or whoever is within that person's family the meaningful tools that relate to them on a personal level, then you can start to build up a person who is there anyway, but they may not realize it, to be the best version of themselves. To be the best version of yourself is a goal to try and achieve.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Paul. That says, I mean, it says it all. You're looking at, every angle. Unfortunately for Nigeria, we don't have a system that is built ready, to help, the people with disabilities that we're talking about. And what I would say to a mother or a parent that says, this is so huge, I don't even know how to deal with it, where do I even start? I would say, and it's just like Aneke Adegoke said, that it's a very long and arduous journey, but
Yes.
you have your happy moments. I mean, when a child can suddenly maybe say something or move something or get a concept that you've been trying to teach them, you celebrate that achievement because it's huge. And to us, ordinary people, we might be thinking, what's the big deal about that? But to a special person, that's the big deal. And the family needs to get together and celebrate, that accomplishment, and help the child grow. I used to have a colleague of mine when I was in uni, and they had an autistic child, and they didn't know what to do with it with her at first, him, sorry, and suddenly they came to a conclusion that if he's going to survive, it's going to be because of the love and the caring that they as a family give him. And so, they tasked themselves, and he was homeschooled, and every time I go there, they're reporting to me of some of the when I go into their home, they're reporting to me some of the accomplishments that he has had since I was there. I mean, now say his numbers, from 1 to 5, or he's seeking. I mean, and he was so talented. He could sing, and even as small as he was. So they tapped into that to say, okay, this is a way that we're going to help this child grow. So for the mom or the dad or the parents who think this is tasking, they just need to realize that if they have the love for that child, which I know they probably do, then all they need to do is hold themselves together and shower their love on that child, and look for the things that he or she can do very well, and then expand the lens on that kind of thing. And just like the person that you talked about, Paul, that wrote a wonderful poem. So if your child is into poetry, If your child is into singing, if your child is into music, then hone in on that skill. And hopefully, and then also I need to say this. And so if foundations can build the kind of support where parents just come together, it doesn't even need to cost any money or what have you, but to be able to share their victories and their problems and their concerns and so on, just to talk. I think I know these things are available in the UK and the US, but we hardly have those in Nigeria, and that is things that and these are things that we have been clamoring for. I mean, with the These Abilities Foundation and also with the Star Children Foundation that's run by Mrs. Alexander, and so we have a lot of work to do. Even as I told you earlier, Paul, the disabled community is the population is about 25 million in Nigeria. That is the size of Lagos State. That is almost the size of Ghana, a whole country. And so
it's half the population of the UK, or at least close to half.
Exactly.
It's an amazing amount of people.
And now to think that we just now put a Disabilities Act in place. We're just now aware of what we need to do for this, set of our citizens. It's just it's amazing. And I know we're gonna get there. We're gonna get where you guys are, where you have all systems in place. You have a caregiver appointed to you. I remember when I was teaching in the U.S., a blind person or deaf person would come to class. A blind person would come to class with their guide dog or what have you. A deaf person would come in with their sign language interpreter, and all of these at state expense. We're not there yet. We are not there yet, and it's disheartening. But I know that ultimately we're gonna get there. We're gonna do it.
Yeah, it's about looking at what different cultures are perceiving disability and how different cultures perceive autism. This is something I mentioned before on the live stream. Different cultures have a different idea of what the challenges are, which is really interesting. So a cultural aspect of a difficulty within autism may be different in Italy or Japan or the UK or Europe, different parts of Europe, which I find fascinating, actually, that the different cultures would, from their own cultural views, and we all have cultural biases, what's right, what's wrong, what's in, what's out, etc. And sometimes those things, rightly or wrongly, filter into education systems, into the community. And it's about understanding the great variety and nuances and values of different cultures as well, and understanding that there can be a community based on seeing people as people. So you're extending it from the disability perspective, but you're looking at the human race, and the human race being as one unit, which I know seems quite advantageous, but if you think about it in how that would build relationships, how that would build a sense of connection with people, regardless of who they are, I certainly think that is something to strive for. And through doing that, you can learn about different people and the That's why I pointed out that word egalitarian, equality for all, regardless of who you are or where you're from. The sense of that things could be equal for you. Say if you were to go into a doctor's surgery or in the hospital, you would be treated with equality, or when you go into education systems, you would be treated with equality. You go and walk around your local community or your village, let's call it that, or town or city, and there'd be a sense of calmness, there'd be a sense of people acknowledging you as a person. And although these things seem like something maybe that people would consider too high to reach, I don't think they are at all, because I think humanity can continue to better itself. And going back to your question, the initial ponderings and
Hello, Prof,
questions.
can you hear me?
Yes. Yes,
Paul,
I
can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear.
Yeah. About learning. It's interesting you say there's a condition that Donna Williams talks about called exposure anxiety, and exposure anxiety is to do with this feeling of great pressure when self is being acknowledged. So I can remember working with a gentleman with a condition called PDA, which is pathological demand avoidance, and you had to use a more indirect way of conversing and interacting, so indirectly confrontational. So that was an interesting way, a system of working where you were humanizing objects, reversing the way you spoke. So the pan is ready to be tended to, that your shoes are ready to be walked in, the road is ready to be walked on. So you had to reverse semantics and form language in a more indirect way, which freed up his nervous system to create more positive associations. So that just gives you another quick example of a different system that you could be working with, and it's just always acknowledging the abundance of those different systems and working with them.
Wonderful.
Hello?
Wonderful. Okay, Lola's back. Hello.
Can you both hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so very much, Prof. Thank you, Paul. I know. Can you hear me? Thank you. I want to thank both of you. Really, it's been the glitches has just been uncontrollable today, but I'm sure our audience got value, irrespective of the fact that the host, was yanked out for the major part of the show. I believe in what you've said to them, and I know that they got value and they're going to make use of all that you've shared with them today. Unfortunately, we've gone past the time. We need to end the show right now. I want to thank Professor Woshika. Ma'am, we're bringing you back on the show. Thank you so much for your wealth of knowledge and for being so generous to share with us today. Paul, what can I say about you? I might have to consider you as a co-host so that we keep learning over and over from you, you know. It's so amazing hearing from you and all that you have to share about this topic and about autism generally. And what do I say about Miss Aneke Adegoke? She was just right on time and she was straight to the point. Even with the little time she shared with us, we got value from her too. I want to thank each and every one of you for all that you've said to us today, for sharing with us so passionately from your heart. Thank you so much. I want to thank every of our guests, Miss Grace Alexander. Thank you so much, Mr. Abioye, Ms. Blessing, Ngape, everyone that has been on the show today. I want to thank you for your comments and all of that. Unfortunately, I'm able to read all the comments because we are way, we've gone past the time we needed to spend here. I want to thank you both so very much. Thank you to Aneke also. And I'm sure we'll be back again. And this time around, we'll be back for good. And we're going to give it our digital. I know you could have done so very much. You've said quite a lot. I'm going to go back myself to watch this video to replay. But thank you so much. We have to go right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
So bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Until we come
Bye.
your way next
Bye.
time.
Bye, everybody.